This is an interview for peep-magazine. We're here with Damon Mogg, aka DROK. Damon, thanks for coming down, mate, and thanks for doing this piece and letting me hang about and being a pain in the butt while you're painting.
Oh, it's no problem, mate. As I say, I've only just turned up, so I'm not organised either. I'm just I'm happy to be here and painting.
Tiffany's was the name, Sidewalk was the game. We're going to go back to 1983 with DROK. What was your first taste of b-boying? Can you define this night in Newcastle? How did you hear about it? What about the event, and what motivated you to get involved with this event?
Well, I only went to Tiffany's a couple of times because I was really young at the time. I remember it being probably the most exciting and magical thing that I had seen, to be honest, because you went from just seeing Breakin on TV. I wasn't like old enough to be kind of around the city at that point, so you're only seeing Breakin on TV and you hear, I don't know, you watch Beat Street over and over again, and then you walk into somewhere where they are actually playing that music really loud and it looks like a disco, but it's you're allowed to go in as a kid. It was absolutely amazing, and I think that's why it stuck with everybody, like everybody who experienced it. Remember it really fondly, and I think that's why you still have an anniversary for it.
So there was Tiffany's, I'm trying to get my head around it, and then Sidewalk was the night, and then that night was organised by a guy called Stesh.
Right, yeah.
Who unfortunately I never met, but every time I hear about anyone talk about this, they always mention his name, and it's like the main guy who kind of invented it.
He's kind of I don't know Stesh either. I mean, as I say, I was really, really young at the time, but it is a name that I've heard from the beginning right up until now. And obviously he was responsible for the music being played and the fact that it was even happening, so like there's the root right there. Yes. Of this city. So
breaking hip-hop graffiti swept, in my opinion, every school. Breakdancing on bus stops, before school, after school, break times. I mean, can you talk about your experience, because you must have been quite young when it kind of swept through the schools?
Yeah, I was about 6, I think, when I first saw it. I had a little thing for watching Michael Jackson dance, and then I saw Breakin on the TV, and then that was it. I spent the rest of the time on my head in the living room, according to my mum.
Right.
So, and school was, I mean, I remember getting sent to what were called the naughty wall a couple of times for breakdancing, and I think it's because the ladies who looked after the schoolyard at the time just thought I was rolling around on the floor in my good clothes or whatever. So, yeah. But once they started realising what was happening, then we used to have little breaking circles all the time in the school. That was what break time was for at school for them.
Would you agree that it maybe stopped a lot of negativity in schools? Because in my school, for instance, there used to be a fight every other break time. Right. Someone beefing with someone. Yeah. And breakdance came through and breaking and all, you know, I don't really want to call it break dancing because that was a term that was coined. In my opinion, it kind of stopped a lot of negativity. Would you agree with this? As I say, I think I was too young to even see a lot of like in first school. I didn't see many people fighting, and that's where I was when Breakin was around. We did used to dance in the schoolyard all the time, but I think probably on a wider level, and for the older kids, I would say that it would have done that. I mean, God knows how many crews there was in the city at one point, but I guarantee every area would have had a crew. Because it was just the thing everyone was doing, so there was crews all over the place. I can't remember what the standard was like, but yeah, there was a lot of crews then. You met another talented artist called Ken Masters, who was also into hip hop music, hip hop culture, breaking. MCing, DJing. Could you talk maybe about that meeting and what was discussed, and was this like an explosion of creative minds?
Well, the first time I ever met him, we didn't realise we had met until later, but it was probably about 1986, I think. There was a Breakin tournament in Concordia shopping centre in Cramlington, and I had been going to a little youth club where there was older kids, and I could windmill and head spin by this point, so they put me in their crew, and that weekend we went and did this battle at this shopping centre, and it was actually Kenny's crew from Cramlington who we were battling that day.
Oh, right.
And then we didn't realise that until we were until we were friends and talking about that type of thing, and we were like, that's him. That's him thing.
Got you.
So when I actually met him, I was probably about 22, I would say. And there was a lot of us that, you know, like he had a group of friends, and they were doing music all the time. They were called Sin Hoods at the time. And then there was loads of other people around them, like the Scruffs, Untamed Youth from Gateshead. They were all doing music. Nobody was really breaking, but like they were already doing music. People were drawing graph all the time, so I kind of slipped in with them straight away, because Kenny moved about 3 streets away from me.
Oh, that's a stroke of luck, isn't it?
So it was like I think he saw me one day wearing a Naughty by Nature hoodie, and then that was it. He kind of we started talking from there.
That's all it took, really.
Yeah. Back then, I think that is how you identified your people. Really, There was more like separation in fashion as well, where it's all kind of mixed together now a little bit. But then you could see who was into hip hop quite clearly. Yeah,
because back in the day, it would have been quite defined. You would have had your post-punks maybe, and then your maybe goths, people that start growing the hair, which was quite cool back in the day.
There was a lot of mixed with football hooligan type of stuff as well, you know, like even the fashion was the same then. They were wearing the same tracksuits as breakers and the same trainers as breakers, so there was quite a lot of that mixed in as well.
That's interesting.
I think some of it is about the fashion as well, you know, for the older lads who were into breaking in the 80s, and they still love that fashion, you know, like that was then. People collecting rare feeler tracksuits and all that sort of thing.
As we touch on fashion, I think it's quite apt that you explained that breaking became quite unfashionable and not really cool. Why do you think this happened?
I'm not sure. I think I've thought about that for my whole life, to be honest, because I was probably at an age where I wasn't as influenced by the mainstream fashion or whatever was going on. Like, I was way too young to go to a rave, you know, like, so all the older lads who they got to an age were probably around 18, 19, where that going to raves and stuff like that was the thing then, and it almost seemed to stop overnight for me. It went from everyone was doing it to nobody's doing it anymore, and it's not even a cool thing to do. Like, running on the spots now, the cool thing to do, you know, like the sort of New Jack Swing type of dancing that came in, followed straight after, and it was all about MC Hammer and running on the spot or raving. And like, I had thought, like, you know, I've spent a lot of time learning how to windmill and spin on my head. I'm not just going to jump up and down now, like, you know, and I just wanted to keep going. It was just too hard to keep going when you're so young and you're kind of isolated in a part of the city where there is no one else doing it. So by the time it come to get older and you meet people who are into the same thing, like by the time I met Kenny and the rest of them, it was like we were all ready to break again. It took nothing to spark that. Just put a record, put that song on that used to play, and somebody would start breaking. Because we were back, we were all around the same age. We all probably experienced the same thing, where it died, and we had nobody older than us showing us anymore, you know, like there was no influence anymore, so you just had to do that yourself. Like that, you know, like I know that BTC are really lucky that they had the breakers in Belfast would mentor them, you know, and I'm pretty sure them boys are still going, so like that's a good thing. Like that's the one thing that we never had. We've got a lot in common with BTC, and that's probably the one thing we haven't got, and that's probably why they have had a mentality straight away of sharing what they know and workshops and bringing people in. But we didn't have that mentality. We kind of survived here, and once we left the city to go to other cities, it was just about battling. That's all we wanted to do. There was no thought of the next generation really. It wasn't even on our radar. We just wanted to battle, because we'd been stuck in this city ourselves for so long. There's only so many times you can go to the same circle in the same club and have the same knacker, spill the same pint over the floor. You know what I mean? Like it so by the time we came to leaving the city, we were excited, and we were just going to like nights that were specifically for breaking. So you knew, like, go to Leeds or Manchester or just like close by, and eventually we were going to London all the time.
So we're going to fast forward, maybe down to 1993. You started your own crew, NCK, Newcastle City Krew, influenced by Wildstyle, Beat Street, and then you seen a Battle of the Air in 1995, was it?
Yeah, I mean, NCK wasn't really. We were all together as friends, and we were all breaking in '93, but there was no name for us. Like, we were just mates breaking in a living room. And at any hip hop night that there is, which eventually Kenny had to put one on, like every month, just so that there was somewhere for people to practice their music and break, and in an environment that was outside of a living room. So we didn't have the name, but we were all breaking together, and a lot of the lads had never done breaking before. There was only a few of us who had been from the first wave. The other lads had jumped on hip hop around like Snoop and Dre and that type of thing, you know. But they were hungry to learn what was like. They were doing graffiti straight away, and they wanted to learn to break, and that was a slow process. It's a hard thing to learn how to break. So there was a lot of years there where we didn't have a name NCK, but we were in a living room breaking together, you know, practicing, getting better. So when we saw Battle of the Air 95, I think that's when everything kind of changed, and we realised how serious breaking was. Like, still, like, we were just trying to do the old things that we were, you know, like trying to get different combinations of swipes, windmills, head spins, and trying to be as tidy as possible and all of that. And then we watched Battle of the Air 95 and realised that, like, the level is high in Europe, it seems. We hadn't seen anything from America at the time, I don't think. So that kind of made me think, like, right, well, it's not just us. Like, there's you know,
there's other people
around
the country.
And if there's other people in Europe, there's got to be other people in the UK. So we knew about like Tough Tim Twist and Second to None for sure. Like, they were already kind of they were established, you know. We didn't realise or think about whether there was the equivalent of us in every single city, and the kind of and it works out that there kind of was, you know. There was a generation of people that were kind of left behind. They were too young to follow what was happening. They still loved hip hop, but everyone stopped, and they had to keep it going in their city. That's the story of just about every city in the UK, I think.
So how does, you've got your crew, you're practicing in bedrooms and stuff like this, you've got your guys with you, all good friends. How does the NCK crew, how does the dynamics work? Is there a hierarchy in this crew? Because the word, I hate saying the word on the street, even though I'm going to say the word on the street, but the word around the dance floor, that you were kind of the top boy, you were a spokesman of NCK, you were the leader of NCK. Would you agree with that? You're probably not going to agree with that, but
It might. I can see why it might have come across like that, though.
I've got you on the spot there, mate.
I think that has come from, like, if anything happens when we're dancing, I will be there to try and sort that out.
Yes.
I don't drink, so maybe I'm just always the one who isn't drunk at these times when things happen or whatever. Like, I don't know about I held no like rule over any of the boys at all. It's not like, oh, thank you, mate, that's love.
That's respect right there.
I held no rule over any of the boys, and that was like, and everyone knew that. Nobody ruled anybody. That was a crew of 12 real big egos, like, who were kept together by just loving the same thing and being on the same team. Like, at the end of the day, like, with the times when we first started going down to London, our attitude was that, like, we are together as Newcastle going to London. That kept us together for a long time. I think the fact that we were competing and we needed to be together to get to where we wanted to be.
So when you guys were travelling down to London, I'm just going to ask something that just popped in my head. Was the colour thing ever an issue with London crews being probably predominantly black, Newcastle crews predominantly white? Was there any friction that you can remember, or any?
No, I think that that's probably a misconception, to be honest.
Good.
The predominantly the crews weren't black. There was a lot of crews of all different races. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of crew of just white lads who looked like they'd come out of a university hall, like that. That really, I don't know, that it doesn't even exist in that environment.
That's really good to hear, and I just thought I needed to ask it because from myself observing from the outside, I hear people talking about different aspects of breaking and whatnot. And I have heard a couple of things, but I just wanted to get it from the horse's mouth that you didn't experience anything.
No, never.
And that's so good to hear.
I think if you go to any hip hop event that is like, you know, put on by people who know what they're doing, you will never see anything like that. I don't know. It is almost like that does not exist.
As I've just struck on that, you maybe were the spearhead of the crew, and I don't mean that in a you were the boss or you told people what to do, just maybe a spokesman is maybe a better word.
I think the only thing that puts me anywhere in that category is the fact that my b-boying was a little bit more advanced than everyone else's when we started again.
Got you.
So I had windmills and head spins and stuff like that, and not many of the lads did have that. They worked really hard to get that. By the end, by the time we all stopped, I definitely wasn't the best. Which I love. Like that's kind of how it's supposed to be. That kind of almost feels like it redeems the fact that I never once thought of passing anything on to the next generation, but I already did. It was just that I was passing it on to people in my generation from the last generation. And like watching your friend like go from not being able to do a thing to being on the stage at Urban Games, like it's nice. It's nice to see, and it's easy to forget.
As I said, you were the spearhead of the crew, and then along came Bad Taste Crew. Was there? I don't want to, like, you know what I mean, I don't want to be the interviewer who says, oh, was it any beef there, was it, because it's not really what I'm about. But Bad Taste Crew come into Newcastle. Was Newcastle big enough for two crews? And I'm interested to hear the dynamics of them coming into Newcastle from Ireland.
To be honest, I can understand why that might seem like it should be a certain way, and like probably with any other crew it probably would have been different, but we felt really close to Bad Taste Crew, like really early on. Like I had already met P a couple of times and we knew that like we were good people, and like, you know, we shared a lot of the same interests and the same opinions. And he, you know, early days told me about the crew that back home that he has, and I liked the fact that crew was a crew of friends from one place, because that's what we were as well. And that wasn't really what was going on in the rest of the country. The crews, especially further down south, the crews were all a mix of people from all different places, you know, like. So I liked it when the crew was just friends from one place who'd grown up together doing that. They came over for, I think we saw them at the Scottish B-Boy Championships first. I think that might have been when we first met them, and we just met them there, and obviously knew P and introduced us to everyone else, and we got on like a house on fire. They came back over for the UK uni champs, and stayed with us, and it's not rare for that to happen, you know, like B-Boys will look after B-Boys. I know that, like, we didn't feel like they were coming here to be a rival crew in the city. We felt like they were coming here and we were going to be together, and it would be a strong unit. Like, they're like family. Like, so if we were ever anywhere at a jam back then, and something popped off in the circle between one of Bad Taste and somebody else, then we would be there for that, for sure. And we kind of had that mentality. I think there was never any, I don't even think it ever entered my mind that they were rivals to us. I had nothing but love for them from the very beginning, so I was happy they were here.
Oh, nice one. Big up Bad Taste Crew. I read somewhere that Breakin moves, freezes influenced the wild style graffiti, or was that the other way around? I'm interested to hear your opinion on it.
I think it all just influences each other.
Sure, yeah.
To be honest, and I think so. Like when I see an amazing piece of graffiti that's got like letters that kind of speak to me, like the shape of them and everything, it is exactly the same feeling that I will have if I'm watching a b-boy do footwork and I'm like feeling that, like that. It's the same feeling if I see a DJ do like some sort of sick scratch set. That's the same feeling. So I think that's probably where it comes from. Like if you're into graph, you're usually into some sort of hip hop or breaking, you know. Like I know, even if you're not active, you would respect that, you know. So I think for people who've experienced like elements across the board of hip hop, all of the different elements are just they've got the same influential feeling when something good happens. A good piece of graffiti, a good piece of breaking, it's the same feeling to me.
Yeah, mate. I think it's only fair that I ask this one last question about a conversation we had maybe 4 or 5 months ago now about how you explained about holding it up in Newcastle for breaking, for b-boying and all the rest of it. Could you maybe elaborate on that? And I'd like to hear from your perspective.
Yeah, well, I'd like to clarify it wasn't just me, but I think without me and a certain group of people, there would have been no breaking, because everybody had stopped. We had to go through some years of kind of getting laughed at for breaking again, I don't think it got taken very seriously, like from some of the older heads maybe. But we just kind of pushed on with that because we could see that, you know, we were by, you know, at one point we started getting videos from all over the place, and we knew that it was happening everywhere. So if we took it seriously, we could kind of join in with that momentum. And that's all it came about to us. Although we were proud of being from the city, and we would represent the city even with our name, we were kind of let down a little bit by it in a way, because nobody was interested in that, you know, until, you know, we got more love in other cities for going to break, whereas here, you know, we'd be in fights all the time just for breaking, just because, I don't know, lots of different reasons, you know. Somebody's girlfriend might be watching us too hard, or somebody gets a bit jealous and decides to just throw a drink on the floor, and, you know, like, and it used to erupt quite a lot. And then we go to other cities and it wasn't like that at all. So we struggled a little bit until we started leaving the city. And when we started leaving the city and breaking, we found that when we came back, then like people had more respect than they did before we went, almost. But we ended up staying out of anything that was happening in the city because there was so much other stuff happening around the country in Europe that that was easier to concentrate on. There was no, you know, like, there was no dance city saying, here's a dance studio, you know, put on some workshops and you know, practice, and, you know, you represent the city. There was nothing like that. We had to just do it on our own. Luckily, Kenny had some big houses with big living rooms. So I do remember living rooms just being linoed. Just lino in the middle of the living room for days and days and days. But yeah, we were hungry at that point, because it was almost like it was starting again. Something that we thought was pretty much dead, and we were just doing for a frisk, was serious in other places, and we should take it serious too.
Would this have been about Fat Sam's time, Black Swan, Barcode kind of?
More Black Swan time. Fat Sam's was probably when I think Fat Sam's was the first time I saw somebody else break again, and that was Gav. So big up Gav. He's NCK member as well, but then there was no NCK. I remember walking into Fat Sam's and hip hop was playing, and I was already loving it. And then the lad next to me, Mick, shouted across to Gav and said, "Are you going to get down?" And I kind of looked and thought, does he mean what I think he means? And then Gav started breaking, and I was like, right,
that's all.
Wow. It started again.
Yeah.
And then from there, that was it. Like, it was practice. Windmill, head spins, you know, aches and pains, and carpet burns and glass in your head, and like, yeah. But like, it's almost like you see other cities and they had at least a few people at least a few of the older ones who stayed on and kind of passed it on. And this city didn't seem to have that at all. But I'm glad we persisted.
Damon, it's been absolute brilliant chatting to you, mate, and I've been wanting to get you down, having a chat about your history, about you holding it up. Not you per se, but you again being a spearhead for the crew, the language, the atmosphere, the nights, the breaking, the b-boying, the attitude. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that got, like, a lot of people sort of perceived us in a certain way because of that. But like, b-boying was about attitude, you know. And like, and if we were going to go to other cities, then we were going to have some of that. Like, we can't go there and be meek in any way, or like, you got to. I mean, a lot of the time it was fake confidence. You know what I mean? It's not like we went there thinking that we were the best and we were amazing, but we had to kind of have some of that just to even compete. And because we were together and we felt real strong together, it became, you know, like that was kind of one of our traits almost, was to be aggressive and no nonsense, and if you do something that we consider to be whack, then we're going to call that out. We were like that, I think, because we watched crews like second to none, and I mean, we loved that, like that. Their attitude was amazing. We thought like if we could break like us, but like hold some of their attitude and the way that they had no fear when they were breaking against, you know, stars of the world scene. They had no fear, and that's, I think we took that from second to none for sure.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks for chatting.
No problem.
And hopefully see you again in the future. But like I say, big respect, and I needed to get you on the channel. Thanks again for chatting to Peep Magazine.
Thank you very much.